Welcome to Hollywood ChangeMakers, a podcast by entertainment industry professionals who want to talk about the issues that impact our culture from a new perspective. Faith, this is Hollywood ChangeMakers.
Hey guys, welcome to Hollywood ChangeMakers. This is the podcast for Hollywood Prayer Network. I'm Kelry. I'm the program director of Hollywood Prayer Network, and I'm so excited because I'm here with a friend and HPN member and industry professional community member, professional director of photography or cinematographer, as I recently learned, Chaz Olivier. Thank you, Chaz, so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
I know. I'm so excited, too, because we actually reached out to you after you just took a really big step in your professional career. Do you want to tell us what you
I just signed with an agency. Yeah, screen talent agency.
Awesome. What a big step. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's really big.
It's wild.
I'm sure it is. And when you sign with an agent, this opens what doors to you now? Like, how does it change your current trajectory of life?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, like, I'm 27 years old. Mm-hmm. I never thought that I would get an agent like this soon in my career. Like, I would have thought it would have been like another 5 years or something like that. And so what an agent does is they kind of they represent you. When someone wants to hire me, they actually reach out to my agent and then they do all the negotiations and all that. Also, my agent is the one who's kind of helping me get jobs and connecting me, networking, the whole thing. And so, it's really, really cool. And I feel like one of the craziest things is that when I first signed with them, some of the jobs that they were trying to get me on was more than I'd ever gotten paid before. And so I was just oh wow, this is really cool. And so it's just, I feel like another door that's open to opportunity that I never would have had access to before. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so happy for you. When you were praying, now you've been a believer your whole life?
Yeah.
Your whole life. That's beautiful. That is actually very rare. Mm-hmm. I don't mean a lot of people who have given their life to the Lord and served Him faithfully their whole lives. And you and I met some months ago, earlier this year, when I first started at Hollywood Prayer Network, and then we reconnected over the birthday party and got to see each other for a few minutes. And one of the things that stood out to me about you as a person was I felt like the Lord confirmed to me right away, that is one of mine, truly one of mine. And I don't feel like I hear the Lord say things like that often, and we can all hear the voice of the Lord. Yeah. You know that. I know that. And I loved, though, that He's used that particular phrase, because to me, I interpreted that as someone who has set his life apart for the Lord. And I know now that is not just something I thought. It was actually something I was perceiving about your life. You've been in the industry for 9 years. Yeah. Living out here in LA for how many years?
8 years, 9 years, yeah.
And you have kept yourself, as Jesus would say, kind of undefiled from the culture that's in Los Angeles and around the industry. What has that journey been like? What was that like first with you moving out here? Let's start with that.
Yeah. I feel like it was interesting because I came out here for Biola University. And that's kind of a Christian bubble to where everyone that you're meeting is Christian, everything like that. And one of the things for me, it really does come to a heart posture. Because when I was in high school, even when I was even thinking about schools, I remember when God really revealed that film was really what He was calling me into, I was my heart is that I want to take the heart of Jesus and put that on film, show that to the world. And so I feel with me doing filmmaking, it was really a means to do that. And just to my heart really was to glorify Him in everything. And so it was interesting, though, because when I went to Biola, I thought, oh, yeah, everyone's going to be like that. And, it really, wasn't, you know? And I remember it was just kind of not disillusionment, but it was just really interesting when I would see people, as they would go on in their career, Jesus was more of a keychain, you know? Mm-hmm. And I was oh, yeah, I have that. But, it wasn't, the main focus that really, drove and He wasn't the one leading their life, you know? And so for me, I feel the biggest thing that has kept me has really just been community. Like if I wasn't surrounded with people who like were passionately like in love with Jesus, I feel like it'd be much easier to like sway off like the straight and narrow and stuff like that. But
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Karen says it all the time. One of his greatest tactics out here is to first separate you. He isolates you.
Yeah.
And then he deceives you.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a great point to bring up. Let's talk about, as you kind of move towards where your season is now, which you signed this agent.
Yeah.
It's very exciting. What was that process like? Because you were looking for someone not only who would represent you career-wise, but help you to represent yourself as Christ would want you represented to this community.
Yeah.
So share that process with me.
So it's funny. I wasn't looking for an agent. Like,
really?
I wanted an agent. I thought that would be the dream, but I never, like I said, I never thought it would actually happen like this soon. And basically, like, I had a dream in June, so like 3-4 months ago. And in the dream, like, I signed with an agency, and it was like a boutique agency, and they were super excited. And they gave me a signing bonus, a $30,000 signing bonus to buy a new camera, to help like kickstart my career. And I woke up from the dream, I was just like, that would never happen. Like, that would never happen. And so I didn't even think of it as like a God dream or anything like that. And then a couple months later, like, and it's so interesting because like I feel like this part of the story is so special to me. But I was on this set that, like, I honestly, like, I didn't really want to be there. Like, there's just like, I felt there's just like a bunch of different things with production and different things like that. But like, basically, I remember I was there before the set started, and I was just in my car just worshiping. And I remember it was a night shoot. I was just so tired, and the Lord was just like, and instead of taking a nap, he's just like, just worship. You're going to feel like way, more rejuvenated. So I just sat in my car and I just worshiped, and it was just so special. And I remember like went into set. I was the camera operator for this shoot, and the DP was like super experienced, great dude. And he was, I just asked him, I was like, yeah, so like, we're just talking. I was just like, yeah, so what's it like getting an agent and everything like that? I was just like trying to learn from him. And he was just like, yeah, it's so hard. Like, you can't just make it happen. Like, we try reaching out to them, they'll never return your emails. And I was just like, oh, that's what I thought, And then the next day he hits me up and he's like, hey, Chaz, like, I have this job for you. Like, I want to connect you, and it's through my agency. And even if it doesn't work out with that job, like, I really want to connect you to this other agent at my agency, because I feel like you guys would be a great fit. And I was just like, what? Like, that's crazy. And so like we got connected. The guy's name's my agent's Gerard George. He's amazing, great dude. And he loved me. He loved my stuff. He loved what I was about. And so we went through like some of the negotiation process of like contracts and everything like that. And I remember I'd sent the contract over to a good friend of mine who I trusted his opinion. I was like, hey, like, what do you think about this? And he's just like, yeah, like, honestly, like, the contract looks pretty standard. Like, there's nothing like out of the ordinary. I feel like it's super solid. But the thing that I feel like is the most important is actually you need to determine in yourself what you are willing to do and what you're not willing to do, and then communicate that to your agent. Because it's better that you communicate that now than later when he's trying to get you on a job or you've signed to something, and then you have to try backing out of it, and that's like the worst. Wow. And so, yeah, honestly, like, it was interesting for me because I really had to determine in and of myself like what I am willing to do and what I'm not willing to do. And I feel like that's like everyone's convictions are different in terms of like what kind of art they're willing to make, and that is something to where like it is between like you and the Lord about that. But like like what does not compromising like look like for me, and what is God calling me to do, and what is he not calling me to do? And to be like completely honest, if I can be, like, it was kind of like difficult because like at first, because like there was the chance of like, okay, if I tell him like I'm not willing to do like these sort of films or these sort of projects, like, and I lose this great opportunity of this agent who can get me on, all this great stuff, like it, that was like a really like a hard thing to like think about. But then like honestly kind of just having to widen out my perspective and be like, you know what, the only reason I'm here in the first place is because God put me in this position.
Yes.
You know, like
Yes.
that's the only reason. Like it was only the Lord. And even with like kind of like the dream thing and everything like that, like it was the kind of thing where it was like, okay, God was kind of showing me like this is coming, and when it comes, you know that's like me, you know.
Wow.
And so even with that, I want every step of the process to still be him. Like it would be such a tragedy to like get to this place that God has told me to and promised me, and then to compromise because I wanted to do like the last 10% myself, you know.
Wow.
One last thing about the dream
Yes.
is that got the agent and then got a $30,000 signing bonus, and to buy a new camera. And it's interesting because in that same week, we'd actually I own a rental company with a business partner of mine, and we sold our red camera, and we're putting together to buy like the new red camera, which is like $30,000. And so it's just like and it was like one of those things where it was like 3-4 months ago that wasn't even in our brain space. We weren't thinking about doing that. And so like within the same week, like those two things happened, and it was just like one of those like, wow, like God, is this
Wait,
is
you
that
were actually given $30,000 to buy a new camera?
not given $30,000, but we through selling, and we had $30,000.
You ended up having $30,000
Yeah.
to buy this camera.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so like that was like one of those things like, wow, like yeah, this is the Lord. Like the dream happened, and it was just so cool and crazy to like see God like move in that space like that. And so
That is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
story. I feel like you hit like the hot button word that I think all of this kind of goes around. Even me perceiving what sort of man you were before the Lord when we first met, and I felt like there was like just a connection of friendship there. But one of the things that I interpreted out of that is that you were a man without compromise, that you have managed to be in this industry for almost a decade.
yeah.
You have not compromised on your beliefs. And what would you say, having been here for quite some time, when looking at your peers, so I'm saying believers in the industry, would you say that compromise is a huge, if not the top challenge that they face as believers in the industry?
Yeah, especially because like sometimes it's so easy to lose sight of that the reality of what we see is not the greater reality. Like the greater reality is Jesus on his throne, you know?
Yes.
And like, even though we can't see that with our physical eyes, it's more real than you are in front of me right now. But like, once you lose sight of that like, that's why it says in Hebrews, like, set your eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of your faith. And like, once you lose sight of Jesus on the throne, then it's so easy for anything else to go, you know? Because for me, the only reason that I don't want to do like those kind of like scenes and those kind of movies is because of him, you know, because at the end of the day, I'm going to stand before him and like be accountable to him, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to be accountable to my agent, you know, who said, oh yeah, you did this job, that's great. Or you didn't do this job, like I'm disappointed in you. It's like, no, I'm going to be accountable to Jesus. And so I feel like it's so easy, like especially as believers, as you get deeper into the industry, and it can be one of these things that kind of like becomes your life, you know?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to break in. Like it's hard for people to get traction. You have to put in so much work and so much effort. You can't go into it half-heartedly, like, oh yeah, I kind of want to do film. Like if you just kind of want to do film, you're not going to go anywhere, you know? You really do have to be like all in. And so a lot of times it's so easy to be all in to the point of like for losing sight of the one who put you there in the first place, you know?
Wow.
And so, yeah.
That's so good. What do you think, if you could give advice to anybody watching this podcast, let's get into how have you say you mentioned community.
Yeah.
But what do you think has been key in your life in helping you stay set apart, to stay consecrated, if you will, with that word, but really to live a life without compromise in the industry?
It's interesting because I have people who are in my life to where if I did compromise, they would call me out, you know? And like, if you don't have those people, I feel like it's easier to compromise, because like, for example, with the whole agency thing, like I was processing that with my friends, and people who I trust and people who love Jesus. And if I didn't have that, if it was just me, I'm sure it could have been easier to be like, you know what, no one's really like looking, no one's going to call me out on this. And so having people like around you who will hold you to account and be like, hey, like, this is who you really are, even if you've slipped up, or even if these things, like, this is who you really are, and we're going to hold you to who God calls you to be, and so like I feel like that's like the biggest blessing, and one of the biggest advice I would give is like, it's so easy, especially in this industry, to kind of like be like a lone like wolf sort of thing. Like, get plugged into community, get into a Bible believing church that loves Jesus, who loves the word, to where like, if even in a moment of your own weakness, you're going to have brothers and sisters around you to kind of like help pull you up. I feel like that's going to be like the biggest thing when it comes like to avoiding and not compromising in your faith.
Well, I think we could talk about this for another 4 hours, but Chaz, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for your vulnerability and for your transparency about walking out this lifestyle that we've all been called to if we're in Christ Jesus. This has been an awesome episode of Hollywood Changemakers. You can find out more about our podcast, Hollywood Changemakers, on Instagram at Hollywood Changemakers. You can also find out more about us on our website at www.hollywoodprayernetwork.com. We will be seeing Chaz again in the future. But for now, God bless you all. We are praying for you, and we're praying for Hollywood. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Hollywood Changemakers. If you'd like to get connected with us, our Instagram handle is @Hollywood Prayer Network. Find out more at hollywoodprayernetwork.com.